I just want to say hi. I'm a big fan. You know, back in the day when I lived in Albuquerque with my ex, I used to see you everywhere. You were on the billboards, on the TV. I used to have one of your matchbooks.
What is up, Better Call Saul fans? My name is Merge, and there are only 4 episodes of Better Call Saul left, and after what we see what becomes of Saul and Kim's relationship in episode 9, Fun and Games, I thought I'd entertain the idea of the Jeff and Kim theories that's been floating around the internet. And if you could leave a like on this video, I'll let you take as many breakfast bars as you'd like, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with the latest content. So you're probably thinking, what are these Jeff and Kim theories that you speak of? Well, I'm glad you asked. To keep it short, and I'll go into details later, there are one of 2 theories. There's a theory that Kim and Jeff dated at one point, which, it's not unreasonable. He's not an unattractive man, and he has a stable job, so I'm just saying. But people are taking the scene at the beginning of the video as a hint towards that theory.
Don't worry about him, he's cool.
Or there's the idea that Jeff works for Kim in some capacity, which makes sense too. Like, Jeff could be to Kim what Mike is to Gus, basically. Kind of like an enforcer kind of deal. But with both of these theories, I'll be putting my own spin on them to see if I can make sense of it all. And every time I dip my toe into the theory pool, I have to provide a disclaimer that this video is based off pure speculation and imagination with just a hint of maybe. So don't come at me in the comments saying, marriage is not possible for Kim and Jeff to interact because of shut up. Just shut up and just enjoy the possibility of what if. So on the night that Kim left Saul, once her car was packed, she got in her car and took a long drive, like the kind of drive that one takes to really reflect on the choices you made to get you to that point. 2 hours passes with only stops being made for gas and just a few hours of sleep in the car at a truck stop, very similar to Lalo. And with Kim, I can imagine that there's no inner monologue going on, no thinking out loud, no radio, just silence as she keeps driving. A few more hours passes and she arrives in a small town on the Colorado-Nebraska border called Red Cloud, which is where she originally grew up. Maybe it's some kind of intuition, or maybe it's just a safe space for her wanting to be that same girl who played the cello in junior high. Either way, that's where she was drawn, and because she had a childhood where she had to move frequently, she doesn't exactly have a house that she grew up in, and the only ties that she has is to her mom, which she refuses to see, and she doesn't even know if she's alive at this point, and the fact that she's still wearing the earrings that her mother shoplifted for her all those years ago. And for the next week, she stays in a hotel, staying inside mostly, just alone with her thoughts, even still playing the events of Howard's death in her mind. But one night, she decides to leave the hotel to get out of her head and just go out for a drink. And instead of driving, she decides to walk to a nearby bar a few blocks away. And while walking, she takes in the scenery from the trees to the houses and passing the same store that she was caught shoplifting out of, now out of business, and the windows have even been boarded up. She gets to the bar, and it's your typical hole-in-the-wall bar and grill. Not a total biker bar, but similar to the place where Hank went, where he went all John Wick on those people for a minute. She takes a seat and orders a drink that she's been needing for almost 10 days, and when it's poured, she doesn't immediately drink it. She instead grabs a cup with both hands and looks at her reflection in the cup, and then her eyes start to water. She then hears a voice that says, "That one's on me, okay?" And when she looks up, she sees it came from the bartender. "My name's Jeff," he says, talking over the music in the bar loudly. Kim tries to dismiss his offer, but he insists, and he says, "I'm off in 10 minutes. If you want, we can talk about whatever it is that's bothering you." Kim looks at Jeff and politely smiles and says, "Thank you, but I kind of don't feel like talking. I'll pay for the drink. I don't mind. I don't want to be rude. I'm just, hey, it's okay. It's all right. You just have a good rest of your night," Jeff says, cutting her off politely. "And keep your head up, okay?" he says, walking away to help another patron in the bar. A few hours passes and Kim still hasn't taken a sip of the drink. She basically just sat at the bar really wanting to think of something other than Jimmy, but in the end, that was all she can think about. But I think I've seen in a blog or an interview that Kim and Jimmy's relationship was like drugs, so how Kim could be feeling is like withdrawal from not having her drug of Saul Goodman. But she breaks from her thoughts with a closing call from the bar, and Kim chugs her drink and decides to leave. As she's walking back to the hotel, she's feeling a little buzzed, and she passes a payphone and even considers calling Jimmy, going as far as putting a coin in the slot, but ultimately she hangs up without dialing. Because again, as much as she loves Jimmy, she has to take responsibility and not go down bad choice road again. She continues to walk and a cab slowly approaches her from behind, and she hears a similar voice say, "Hey!" She turns around and sees it's the same bartender driving a taxi this time. "It's me, Jeff, from the bar earlier," he says, pulling right on the side of her, and Kim's a little shaken and says directly to him, "Are you following me?" Leaning towards the car window, looking Jeff right into his eyes and clearly not buzzed anymore. And Jeff says defensively, No. I know what it looks like, but when I get off work at the bar, I work a few hours driving a cab to pay off some court debts. I was actually dropping someone off a few miles away." Kim looks at Jeff as she seems to ease up. "I'm sorry," she says, standing from the car window. "It's just been a rough few days for me, that's all," she says apologetically. Hey, it's okay, and I'm sorry to hear that. We all go through rough patches, so I completely understand," Jeff says. And he continues to say, "Hey, I never got your name." Kim hesitates for a moment and says, It's Giselle, just Giselle of St. Clair." She's not really sure herself why she lied, but she she very nearly corrects herself, but Jeff says with a smile on his face, "Nice to officially meet you, Giselle St. Clair," then offers to drive her home. She politely declines and says her hotel is just down the street, but thank you though. But like the drink, he insists, and Kim declines his offer again, but instead asks him about his core issues, subtly changing the subject. Well, if I'm being completely honest, 3 years ago after a few drinks, I decided to drive home like a moron. And, well, I blacked out, and when I woke up, I was in a hospital and I was told I wrecked 5 cars. And to avoid prison time, I took a plea deal that would have me pay for the damages for each car. Kim then asked him some more legal questions about his case, and before you know it, they're talking a full legal strategy right on the hood of his taxi. And in that moment, Kim's mind is clear of Jimmy, Howard, and everything dealing with Albuquerque, only purely being focused on helping Jeff. Maybe it's Jeff's charm, or maybe it's just a distraction that she needed. Either way, Kim likes it. And with Jeff, he's just blown away about how much Kim's informed him about the case and says, "Giselle, you have to at least let me buy you a cup of coffee. We've been on the hood of my taxi for 3 hours and the sun is up again. I mean, you didn't have to do any of this, so would you please do me the honor of buying you a cup of coffee?" Kim looks at Jeff smiling and says, "Do you work tonight?" Jeff says, "Yep, from 9 to 1. And Kim walks away saying, "You can buy me a drink tonight." Jeff smiles and gets in his cab and lightly taps his horn as he passes Kim. Later that night, Kim arrives at the bar and she spots Jeff serving bar patrons as usual. I mean, he is the bartender. And Kim sits down and without even making eye contact, Jeff hands Kim a drink and says, "That's what you had yesterday, is that okay?" He questions with a smile and then he says, "Hello, by the way, Miss Giselle." Kim looks a little confused at the moment, but then says, "Hi, Jeff," and says, "This is perfect, thank you," smiling back and starting the beginning of something new. A few months passes and Kim and Jeff have been seeing each other almost every day since they met, and at this point they both have feelings for each other, but it seems that they're both avoiding making it official for their own reasons. Like with Jeff, he really likes Kim, but he has no time between the 2 jobs he has, and the major focus that he has is clearing his court debt. And with Kim, she doesn't exactly know what she wants, but when she's with Jeff, she has this peace of mind and feeling like Jeff could be a real fresh start for her. So with that thought in mind, Kim decides to help Jeff appeal his case and reduce his debt. And after 6 months and some serious coordination with Jeff's lawyer, Kim managed to get Jeff's case dismissed and he's officially debt-free. Later that night, Kim and Jeff meet up at the bar like usual to celebrate, but this time Jeff is no longer working at the bar, and Jeff has this real heart-to-heart with Kim about how much he appreciates her for everything she's done for him, and he even expresses feelings that he has for her and says that there's nothing holding him back from having her now. Kim, who's still going by Giselle, cracks a smile and tells Jeff how she feels about him. She tells him that when she's with him, it feels like nothing else matters, and he's something that she needed for a long time. And then she goes in to kiss Jeff, ending the night with the two sleeping at Kim's place. Now, I want to point out in this scenario, Kim has basically inherited a piece of Jimmy that she just can't get rid of, and that's in the form of the Giselle persona. She could have came clean to Jeff months ago, but she chose to hold on to the lie, and at this point, I want to believe that Kim's getting a thrill out of living this double life, and the fact that every day, like an actor, she can play a role and fool those closest to her, i.e. Jeff, she might even get off on that. And with Jeff, he's the kind of person who had a few setbacks in his life, but now he's ready to move forward and settle down, which for Kim, she's struggling to do, and in the end, when Jeff finds out, or if he finds out, what is gonna happen? So to end this theory off, because I feel like this can turn into a series of its own, Kim and Jeff do get together, but Kim remains Giselle, and they decide to move to Albuquerque, which is Kim's idea. And as much as she wants to have a regular, normal, everyday life with Jeff, she can't help but think of Jimmy, especially now being back in the same city. But she doesn't have to wonder too much longer, because when she turns on the TV, she sees him right on the screen doing one of his famous Better Call Saul commercials, and Kim's eyes begin to water as she starts to laugh. And with her back turned, unable to see the tears, Jeff comes from behind her and says, "Do you like him too? This guy is hilarious. I think I have one of his matchbooks around here somewhere," as Jeff goes to look for his matchbooks. And I think that's where I'll leave this one. I honestly like this idea, and if Kim wasn't so tethered to Jimmy, I would say that this could be a potential spin-off idea, maybe like a Slippin' Kimmy or something like that. But for now, it's just my idea. But let me know down below in the comments if you want me to continue this theory, or should I just move on? And speaking of moving on, let's talk about the other Kim and Jeff theory that really puts her on par with Gus as far as calculation goes. And that is, after Kim leaves Saul in the apartment, she stays in the hotel for the night, and the next day she calls Mike. Because the night that Howard died, on her way back from Gus's house, her and Mike had a talk, and Mike had let her know how she would be feeling, and if she is who he thinks she is, she might be wanting to get away from all this, and when or if that happens, give him a call and he would set her up with something new. So when she called Mike, they made an arrangement to meet at the Los Pollos Hermanos restaurant, and Kim expressed interest in this something new idea and told Mike that she quit being a lawyer, she broke up with Jimmy, and she doesn't know what to do, but she can't be what she once was. And Mike understands exactly where Kim is coming from, and then he thinks for a moment and then asks Kim, "Have you ever been to Omaha?" And Kim says, "I grew up in a small town on the Nebraska-Colorado border." Mike acknowledges what she says with a look and then says, "I have a guy in Omaha who could set you up with a new place, a new job, and considering your skill set, it wouldn't be an issue and you can have your fresh start there." Kim considers the offer and takes a deep breath and says, "Okay, I'll do it. So what's his name?" Mike pulls the phone out of his pocket and says, "His name is Jeff." We pick up a year later with Kim and Jeff in a cab parked on a stakeout, kind of like how Jesse and Mike was, so picture that energy. Because in this theory, Jeff is a private detective, and he's a good one too. Reason being is because he drives cabs on the side, and no one expects a cab driver. And at this point, Kim's picked up the trade really quickly, and she's almost as good as Jeff, and they make a really good team. And doing this kind of work was exactly what she needed to put her on the path to know what she wants to do going forward. And that's her and Jeff having their own taxi PI business, because I feel like it checks all the boxes for Kim, and that combination of work really fits within her moral gray area. And after a little savings and a few investments, after a year, she was able to buy Omaha cabs with Jeff and have a small fleet of cab private eyes. And Kim's finally able to focus on her future, and now she enjoys a much needed day off. And as she's watching TV, she sees the news that Saul's on the run for being associated with Walter White's drug empire. Kim is shocked by the news and decides to call Mike, and when she gets no response from Mike, she calls Jeff and asks if she heard from Mike. Jeff responds with, "I haven't heard from him in almost a year, and last I heard he was going straight, but honestly, I wouldn't know." And then Jeff asks, "Is everything alright?" Kim responds with, "What do you know about Saul Goodman? Other than him having the best commercials in the world and now being on the run from some drug business? Not really too much," Jeff says jokingly. "Do you think you can find him before the police does?" Kim says in a serious tone. "It can take a while, but if he hasn't committed suicide or anything, yeah, I can find him," Jeff says confidently. "Why?" "Because right now you're on the clock. Find him and keep me updated," Kim says, hiring Jeff for his services. Jeff says on the phone, "You know my rates, right? But for you, it's on the house. I'll give you an update when I find something." Kim hangs up and continues to watch the news, and then scene. And I'll leave that one right there because we know where Jeff would meet Gene in this timeline if this were correct. Wink, wink.
It's you.
Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I know my theories are a little unusual, but I mean, in the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul-verse, anything can happen. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the comments if you think these theories hold any weight, or if I should add to a theory and make a separate Better Call Saul timeline altogether. Whatever it is, comment below and let me know, and I'll do my best to respond. Until then, my name is Gerald, but you can call me Merge. Later.